She's across from my desk, we're getting to know each other, we're flirty, nice, it's all this is going. And she's across the desk and she takes a piece of paper, turns it around and she pushes it to me and said, please say yes. I was so mesmerized, I don't remember Gary, just remember the girl.
Richard Gere is one of Hollywood's most enduring icons. At 76, he remains a figure of charm, elegance, and undeniable magnetism. Throughout his career, he has starred in numerous romantic dramas and thrillers, often alongside some of the most celebrated actresses of their time. Recently, Gere revealed in interviews the names of 6 actresses he secretly admired and, at times, felt a deep attraction to. While this might sound like gossip, it also offers a rare glimpse into the private thoughts and feelings of a man whose on-screen persona has always been calm, collected, and charismatic. Gere's reflections are not about mere lust, they are about connection, chemistry, and the powerful influence certain women can have on a person. They show how encounters with extraordinary individuals can leave a lasting impact, even decades later. Gere's first mention was Julia Roberts, his co-star in Pretty Woman. The movie, released in 1990, was more than just a romantic comedy, it became a cultural phenomenon. Julia, then just 22, had a fresh-faced innocence and a radiant smile that could light up any room. Richard, an established star at the time, found himself captivated not just by her beauty, but by her natural energy and warmth. On set, the chemistry between them was undeniable, with subtle glances, shared laughter, and moments that seemed to exist outside of the scripted scenes. Gere has described how Julia's presence reminded him of what it feels like to experience genuine joy and excitement. It wasn't simply attraction, it was a feeling that made him more present, more alive, and more aware of the subtle magic that real human connection can create. Fans watching their performances on screen could sense this, even if they didn't understand its full depth. Next on Gere's list was Diane Lane, who co-starred with him in Unfaithful. Diane brought a very different energy from Julia Roberts. Where Julia was spark and innocence, Diane was fire and danger. Gere has spoken about how working with Diane made him confront his own emotions and boundaries. Her performances exuded subtle sensuality and a quiet intensity that could captivate and unsettle anyone in her presence. Unlike Julia, Diane's appeal was layered with experience and sophistication. She challenged Gere in a way that made him respect the power of desire and restraint simultaneously. Watching Diane work on screen was like witnessing a delicate balance between control and surrender, a duality that left a lasting impression on him. Gere admitted that the tension between them lingered even after filming, illustrating how strong chemistry can transcend scripted moments and remain etched in memory. The third woman Gere mentioned was Michelle Pfeiffer, known for her cool, elegant presence. Whereas Diane Lane embodied fire and risk, Michelle exuded calm control and mystery. Gere described her as someone whose quiet confidence and sharp intellect made her magnetic without effort. She didn't rely on overt flirtation or dramatic gestures, her strength was in subtlety. Just sitting across from her could feel like a challenge, a gentle test of attention and understanding. Michelle's aura was icy yet compelling, the kind of presence that draws people in without them even realizing it. For Gere, she represented the type of attraction that is intellectual and emotional rather than physical alone. It wasn't about chasing her, but about appreciating her depth and complexity, an attraction built on admiration as much as desire. Susan Sarandon was next, and her energy contrasted sharply with Michelle Pfeiffer's quiet elegance. Gere described Susan as a force of nature, a woman whose presence was immediate, unapologetic, and bold. She was not just beautiful but daring, outspoken, and independent, a combination that could intimidate or enthrall in equal measure. Susan's sensuality was raw and alive, not polished or calculated. On screen and off, she had a way of commanding attention without seeking permission. Gere's fascination with her stemmed from her fearlessness and authenticity. Unlike some of the other actresses he admired, Susan represented the untamed side of desire, the excitement and unpredictability that comes with someone who refuses to conform. Gere has said that being around her reminded him that attraction is often about energy and character, not just appearance. The fifth woman on Gere's list was Sharon Stone, whose confidence and daring made her unforgettable. Sharon's performances, particularly in films like Basic Instinct, showcased her ability to combine intelligence, sensuality, and authority. Gere admired her for more than her beauty. He appreciated her sharp mind and the way she carried herself. She was a woman who could dominate a room without speaking, whose gaze and movements communicated power. Gere was drawn to this combination of elegance and audacity, which created a sense of danger and thrill that was hard to resist. Sharon represented a different form of attraction, one that was assertive, deliberate, and commanding, contrasting with the gentler allure of Julia Roberts or the fiery intensity of Diane Lane. Gere's admiration for Sharon illustrates how varied and nuanced attraction can be, influenced as much by personality as by physical presence. Finally, Gere mentioned Sophia Loren, a timeless icon whose beauty and confidence transcend generations. Unlike the other actresses, Sophia represented legacy and elegance. Gere described her as a woman who carried herself with quiet authority and incomparable charm. Her presence was commanding yet gentle, fiery yet composed. For Gere, Sophia embodied the ideal combination of experience, poise, and allure. She was a reminder that attraction can endure beyond youth, that certain qualities, confidence, strength, and self-assuredness, make a person unforgettable. Gere's reflections on Sophia Loren suggest that admiration and desire are not merely physical but are deeply connected to respect and awe for the person's life, achievements, and essence. She stood for a different kind of magnetism, one rooted in history, sophistication, and timeless elegance. Looking back at these 6 women, it becomes clear that Gere's attractions were never superficial. Each actress represents a different facet of connection: Julia Roberts for innocence and joy, Diane Lane for intensity and danger, Michelle Pfeiffer for intellect and calm, Susan Sarandon for raw power and unpredictability, Sharon Stone for authority and daring, and Sophia Loren for timeless grace. Together, they illustrate how human attraction is complex, multifaceted, and deeply personal. Gere's reflections go beyond gossip. They reveal the lasting impact certain individuals can have on our lives and perspectives. They show that desire can take many forms: playful, intense, intellectual, daring, or respectful, and that it can endure long after the moment has passed. Gere's candidness also highlights the distinction between admiration, attraction, and respect. While the title might focus on who he wanted to sleep with, the deeper story is about influence, chemistry, and the way people leave impressions that shape our experiences. In Hollywood, where glamour often masks true connection, these actresses offered moments of authenticity and magnetism that Gere has never forgotten. His acknowledgement of them underscores the complexity of human emotion and the subtle interplay between attraction and respect. It also reminds us that even celebrities, whose lives are often public and scrutinized, experience admiration, longing, and connection in ways that are relatable to anyone. Richard Gere is one of Hollywood's most iconic leading men. At 76, he continues to be admired for his charm, elegance, and timeless appeal. Over a career spanning more than 4 decades, Gere has starred in many beloved films, earning fans worldwide. Recently, he spoke openly about 6 actresses he secretly admired and, at times, felt a strong attraction toward. While this revelation might sound like celebrity gossip, it is also a fascinating glimpse into the private thoughts of a man whose public image has always been calm, collected, and magnetic. Gere's reflections reveal more than mere attraction. They are about chemistry, admiration, and the power that certain women can have in leaving a lasting impression. The first actress Gere mentioned is Julia Roberts, his co-star in Pretty Woman. Released in 1990, the film became a worldwide phenomenon and turned Julia into a superstar. At just 22 years old, Julia's innocence, wide eyes, and charming laughter made her captivating on screen and off. Richard Gere, already an established Hollywood star, found himself fascinated by her natural energy and warmth. On set, the chemistry between the two was electric, with subtle glances and spontaneous laughter creating moments that went beyond the script. Gere described how Julia reminded him of what it felt like to experience genuine joy and excitement, a feeling he hadn't felt in years. Their connection was more than physical. It was about emotion, presence, and the small sparks that make human interactions memorable. Fans watching their performances could sense this chemistry, even if they didn't understand the depth behind it. Next on the list was Diane Lane, who co-starred with Gere in Unfaithful. Diane brought a completely different energy than Julia Roberts. While Julia embodied innocence and spark, Diane represented intensity and danger. Gere spoke about how working with her made him confront his own emotions and limits. Diane's performances were subtle yet powerful, filled with quiet sensuality that could captivate and unsettle. She exuded a maturity and sophistication that made her irresistible to Gere, challenging him to balance desire with control. The tension between them was palpable, lingering long after filming ended. Diane's appeal was about experience, depth, and the quiet force of her presence, a reminder that attraction is often about more than beauty. The third woman Gere admired was Michelle Pfeiffer, known for her elegance and calm charisma. Where Diane Lane embodied fire, Michelle exuded icy sophistication. Gere described her as someone whose intelligence, confidence, and subtlety made her magnetic. She didn't need to flirt overtly, her presence alone drew attention. For Gere, Michelle represented an intellectual and emotional attraction rather than a purely physical one. She was challenging, composed, and intriguing, someone whose aura made you pause and think. Gere admired the way she could make a room feel alive without trying too hard. Michelle exemplified the idea that attraction could be measured in respect, intellect, and quiet allure as much as in physical beauty. Susan Sarandon was next, bringing yet another dynamic to the list. Gere described Susan as bold, fearless, and unapologetically herself. She had a raw energy that could dominate a room, her presence demanding attention without any effort. Her sensuality was alive, authentic, and slightly intimidating. Gere was drawn to her independence and courage, traits that set her apart from the other actresses he mentioned. Susan reminded him that attraction is often tied to confidence and character. She represented the untamed, unpredictable side of desire, the excitement of being drawn to someone whose energy is powerful and uncontainable. Gere admired that she wasn't polished for the camera, she was real, and that made her unforgettable. The fifth woman on Gere's list was Sharon Stone, whose daring and intelligence made her a standout. Gere admired her for the combination of beauty, brains, and authority. Sharon was a woman who could command a room without speaking, whose presence created tension and fascination at the same time. In films like Basic Instinct, she displayed a skillful blend of sensuality and power. Gere appreciated how she balanced allure with sharpness, making her captivating in ways that went beyond physical attraction. Sharon Stone represented a form of attraction rooted in confidence, boldness, and the ability to be fully present while remaining untouchable. Finally, Gere mentioned Sophia Loren, a timeless icon whose charm transcends generations. Unlike the other actresses, Sophia represented elegance, experience, and legacy. Gere described her as a woman who carried herself with authority and grace, whose presence alone could captivate a room. Sophia's beauty was built on confidence, life experience, and self-assurance, making her unforgettable. Gere admired her for her timeless appeal, which went beyond appearance to embody strength, elegance, and dignity. She was the kind of woman whose influence extended beyond admiration into inspiration, a symbol of enduring allure. Reflecting on these six actresses, it's clear that Gere's attraction was never superficial. Each woman represents a different facet of human connection: Julia Roberts for innocence and joy, Diane Lane for intensity and danger, Michelle Pfeiffer for calm intellect, Susan Sarandon for bold unpredictability, Sharon Stone for commanding confidence, and Sophia Loren for timeless grace. Together, they reveal how admiration and desire can be shaped by personality, energy, and charisma rather than just looks. Gere's candid reflections show that attraction can be complex, nuanced, and long-lasting, leaving impressions that endure for decades. Richard Gere's comments also highlight the difference between admiration, attraction, and respect. While the sensational title may focus on desire, the deeper story is about the influence these women had on him. They reminded him of the magic of connection, the thrill of chemistry, and the power of presence. Gere's openness shows that even in a world of glamour and public attention, authentic connections can leave lasting impressions that are meaningful and memorable. Ultimately, Gere's revelations are more than a list. They are a look into the inner life of a man who has experienced decades of relationships, both on-screen and off. Each actress evokes a story, a moment, and a set of emotions that have remained vivid for him over time. Whether it's Julia's spark, Diane's fire, Michelle's elegance, Susan's courage, Sharon's authority, or Sophia's timeless grace, each woman shaped Gere's experience.